All right, so then we can start. Hello, everybody, and good afternoon from good old Breton, where I live, near Breton. Few kilometers. I think Søren is also here in the near. And yeah, my task is today to show you some tips and tricks when you're using the ABAP Development Tools for Eclipse. And yeah, that's what I want to do now for the next 40 minutes. The first tip that I already have before I go on to the demo is some kind of a guideline that we have written, or more or less the German-speaking user group have written that document. So it's a lengthy handbook about all the tips and tricks, how to use ABAP development tools in Eclipse. So it's also about installation, what are the best setup, how can you share this within your company, all these kind of things, but also what are the best topics in the editor, what are the good things in the debugger, all these kind of things are available there. So it's all part of that web page here, so you can download it. It's available in German, but also in the meantime translated to English. So that's the English version here, and then as I said, you find all the informations here. I'm not sure how many pages we have at the end. Yeah, more than 200 pages with all the tips and tricks. So hopefully most of the stuff will also be covered during the next 40 minutes in my session. Okay, having said that, I will now go over to Eclipse. That's it. So I try to use a very minimalistic setup for the Eclipse this time, because I often hear from users, from developers, oh, Thomas, this Eclipse is so huge, a lot of views, a lot of things to learn, and it's completely, yeah, overwhelming at the beginning. So I really try to also start here with a very minimalistic set. So it looks like maybe for the colleagues who are not working with Eclipse, maybe they're already familiar with what they know. So more or less on the left-hand side, it's just you see the Project Explorer, which is, I think, the most important tool, because that's more or less your cockpit to connect to all the development systems that you want to use. And on the right-hand side is the editor, right? So the editor page, let's say, where you do all your codings. So you see already on the left-hand side, it's not only that you have access to one system compared to the classic sub GUI-based developments. No, it's more like a mix of the sub log-on. So on the left-hand side, so all the systems that you have configured, you have access in the IDE. So that's one of the benefits here. You also see what's happening typically when working longer time with Eclipse. You have a lot of systems configured. So you know also this from sub-log-on, customer systems from the last partner project, internal systems, queue systems, all these kind of things. And this gets a little bit, yeah, cumbersome to use, because then, what was the system that I want to use for that demo, for example? In order to get a better overview about this, you can use the so-called working sets. You find this here. And working set is just like more or less a collection of a few ABAP systems that you want to use in your work. So when I click on that, you see what's happening. Then you only get here a limited set of ABAP systems, so only a subset of all the configured systems, and then you're ready to go. That's more or less already the first very important thing to know to get really a better overview on your systems here. All right. Then I want to go on. Now I want to really go into the system. That's one S/4HANA system from the release 2023. I'm already logged on. And then you see, yeah, what you can do there. So it's more or less the overview of the repository in that system. So what packages are there? Maybe Mark can mute. Or someone can mute Mark. Thanks. All right. And also you see here local packages here. But it's not that you get this default view here. No, you can also create your own view. So for example, when you want to have a specific topic more or less focused here, then you can also create such an own repository tree here. That means also a subset of development objects. It's quite easy to create here. And then, for example, in that case, I want to, for example, display all the inactive objects. So for example, here I can choose here the filter, the property filter, and then I say, okay, display only the inactive objects, and I only want to see, oops, I only want to see my inactive objects. Then you click finish, and then you get a new tree here. And this is for sure persisted. When you restart the IDE, then you will still see these here. There's also something very interesting here that you can see. Oh, okay, there's still one class that I did not activate in the past. So that's let's say for this very good point here. And yeah, then we go on. For sure, I want to start to do now some developments. And the first thing I want to use, and you see this already here in the rough overview page here, which is language specific. So I'm now in the ABAP development perspective. So you see typical shortcuts, not so much, because not so much shortcuts are available from this perspective now. But there are other things when you're programming Java or other languages, you get other hints here. So I want to start with that shortcut here. That's more or less already the most important one, because this is the shortcut to open an ABAP development object, and then you see what's happening. Ooh, a class opens up in the editor page here. So that's more or less it. You see already some documentation available, standard ABAP class, not so much content in there, but you see there's already an interface implemented in that class, and I want to know, okay, what is this interface doing? Or for example, for the main method. And what I do now, what I typically do now, is then I open the editor for the interface, read through the coding, figure out, okay, there is that and that method. Then I go back here to that class and work with it. In Eclipse, that's different. I just press F2, and then I get all the informations that I need on one page here. So what are the methods? What is the documentation? Also some examples here written in ABAP doc. And you maybe already seen what I did here when I press a keyboard here, that you already see what keyboard I use. So this kind of visualization is quite useful when doing these kind of demos here, because then you can see what I'm doing on my keyboard. And yeah, that's already one very prominent shortcut here to use. It's not only that you see the documentation of that interface here. No, you can also navigate through that. So for example, when you need some more information about that method or about the parameter that method have, and you also see the documentation that of that. So you can also see that you can browse through the documentation similar to what you're doing with web browser here. So you don't have to navigate or open too many editors, because it's everything available here in place. So you can just press escape, and then you're back in the editor here. So what I want to do now is I want to do some small implementation here. So as usual in the programmer's demo, I'm doing a hello world. So I'm just type in here hello, and then I already get a code template here. And then you can already see what the thing is doing here now. So this is more or less like the Eclipse version of an ABAP report, let's say. So typically when you want to learn some new things in the ABAP, in the sub GUI world, you're writing a report, you're programming some ABAP, and then you have a write statement and you bring it to the sub GUI output. In Eclipse, that's a little bit different, because we don't use sub GUI anymore. So we all want to do this within Eclipse. And therefore we have a new shortcut here, when you're programming these classes here with this special interfaces, you do not press F8. No, you press F9. And then you see what's happening. A small console opens up, and then you see this here on the console. So that's just a very simplified example, but you can also imagine that you can do other things with that. So you can also program, give some results of your programs then to the console. And so that's quite convenient here. So you can also, for example, when you select data from a database table, and before you want to dump this out to an ALV grid, you can test this here in order to get, more or less better understanding what your coding is doing. And then you can also dump this data out to the ABAP console. That's more or less what this thing is doing here. And so you already see this is also a nice feature of Eclipse. So when I'm here in my editor, I don't see these things because they are all hidden here behind these behind this toolbar here. And whenever you use this pop-up comes up. For sure, you can also change this setup and make these views permanent, that you all see this within your ADT perspective, let's say. So this can also be configured like you want to have it. All right. That's it already for the first example. You maybe also seen that on the left-hand side, in the meantime, the view changed a little bit. So the package opens. So this is also very nice information or very nice feature. And this is behind that yellow sign here. So this means that whenever you open a new editor, automatically the Project Explorer opens exactly at that point where this class is located here in that sense. So when I'm opening, for example, an SAP objects, then you will see that the packages of the SAP objects will be opened here. That's also quite useful, let's say. All right. So what I want to do next is I want to show some other features from the area of the editor. So for example, here I don't want to use directly here a string here in the write statement. So I'm pressing one of my best friends in Eclipse. So this is so-called quick fix Control-1. And then that's context sensitive. That means the IDE now analyzes what possible fixes are available here. And then you see, okay, let's create a local constant for that. Let's do that. And then you see what's happening. So automatically this constant is creating with the correct values, and also the usage here is replaced automatically. Maybe it was not the best idea to use this as a local constant. I directly want to convert this to a class constant. And maybe also the name is not the best one. So I'm also pressing Control-1. So you see, whenever you think you need some help from the IDE, just press Control-1. And then most likely you will get some help here. Okay, I want to rename this to welcome text. Right, that's it already. Good. And you also know I'm primarily using here keyboard shortcuts, so no need to use the mouse or some context menus or things like that. So that's the most convenient way to work with Eclipse. For sure, it's not so easy at the beginning to know all these shortcuts, but there's the master shortcut of all the shortcuts. So the mother of all shortcuts, let's say, this is Control-Shift-L. There you see all the shortcuts that are available on that Eclipse installation. And you can also, for example, search for it when you want to say, okay, I want to do some debugging, or I want to delete a line, or I want to move a line, all these kind of things. So to get very quickly the answer that you need here. Also click this away. So this is also very important to have this in place. There are also some developers who write some of the major or the main shortcuts on their board, or have some kind of a script or just some kind of a cheat sheet right beside the keyboard. All these kind of things are let's say convenient for the beginners. All right, I want to now create a new method. So you already saw in the beginning that we have these source code templates. So I also have one here to implement the method. Let's call this get date. that's it already. In ABAP, you also know you have to define this method. Therefore, I also have a quick fix, quite easy here, and then the method is automatically created here. When you want to get an overview, what kind of templates are available overall, I also can give you a very important shortcuts, which is Control-3. This is also something that you then can easily find information that you need. For example, in that case, I want to see all the templates, code templates that are available for me, and then also a small pop-up comes up and all these things. So when you want to program a loop or want to define a local class, all this kind of stuff is available via a template here. Okay, let's go on. Let's define a variable here and give it a value. This one here, for sure, I don't want to do this here locally. I want to give this as a return parameter. So again, I'm pressing Control-1, and then I see this option here. And then this automatically here defines the return parameter. Maybe you've also seen that I have created a private method. Maybe that's not the thing that I want to have. So I can also change the visibility here. And that's already it. So it gives the actual date and returns this of this method here. So you also see the source code looks not so nice after these quick fixes, because let's say the formatting is not that I want to use. So what you're using typically in the sub GUI world is the pretty printer. In Eclipse, we have a much better offering, which is the so-called ABAP cleaner, which is behind the shortcut Control-4. And then you see what's happening. So it's at that point here rather similar what you may know from the pretty printer or from the formatter. But you can also, when you're pressing the Shift, then you also see that you get some kind of a configuration dialog here. And there you then directly see what is the power behind the ABAP cleaner, because when you click this configure button here, then you see all the available rules here, which are for sure based on the latest ABAP Clean Core guidelines, so the clean ABAP guidelines. So you see all around, rough about 100 things are already available, rules that you can configure on your own. So you can define, okay, what things should happen when I press the shortcut. And it's not only about formatting the upper and lower case and things like that. Now you can also apply rules like that automatically white spaces are removed, or that you automatically want to migrate from old legacy syntax towards new syntax. So that's really a really powerful tool, and you should really use that instead of the standard formatter in Eclipse, where you can just do some kind of upper lowercase conversion here. So this is really one of the highlights, let's say, or the major tips that I can give you in this session here. All right, let's go back. And then you can also say, okay, let's also put this date here. And that's already it. Pressing F9 again. And then you also see that the date is printed out here. So very, very easy to use here, and especially to learn new things in the ABAP, it's perfectly. So it's not an end user interface or things like that, but that you're still using the new RAP programming model, for example, but just for learning purposes or to doing a few small things, that's really quite useful to do this completely here in Eclipse. All right, that's it already for that part. Now I want to go a little bit into the version management. So I did already some changes, and you know, the classical world, you have the more or less the very, let's say, old version management, where you can only create a version when you transport objects in Eclipse. You also have a so-called local history, and that means whenever you do some changes locally in your Eclipse installation, so changing something, doing other things and things like that, then in every save action, a local version is created, which is only available here on your PC. And you can trigger that here. And then you see a long history. So I practice a lot. And yeah, you can see then here what are the things that we now have done during the session here. So this was the class at the beginning, and then I added some things, and then we can also reset some stuff. So you can go back to that version or only take over a few things, and all these kind of things is available here. So typical things that you are doing with a version history in that sense. That's within the system. So when you're doing changes within the system, but sometimes you also want to know, okay, I did some changes last week, but I can't remember what is now the difference to my current production systems or to the test system. So sometimes you also want to compare this more or less with another system. And this is also available here. So with the local history, revision history, is that what you know? So the histories which are created or the versions which are created when you're doing a transport. But here now I can do a comparison with my queue system. That sense, so this was the other system that I have already configured. And then you also see, okay, what are the changes that I did compared to that, what I practiced the last days, let's say. So also quite convenient here, get all this information here. And this is also really like the split screen editor. So you can really edit in both places. So for example, when you think, oh, this was not so nice, then maybe you can also take over from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, or even the other way around, which is maybe not so useful when you're comparing to the quality system, but maybe when you're comparing this to a completely different code line, maybe you have a project code line and a patch code line, things like that, then this feature might be helpful for you. So both, you can move content from both sides to the other side. That's more or less the idea of that. Good. Okay, what else do we have? Sometimes you also, yeah, know that you have developed something, but you don't have the time now to make it perfect, let's say, and you want to make some kind of notes. Okay, that you know that maybe some at the end of the week you want to take care for this task, and for these kind of things we have a very, yeah, let's say nice integration of tasks here. I have it here. So also only available for me, so not some Jira or whatever behind. So it's really a very simplified use case, let's say, but quite useful for me because I've marked here, okay, that I want to review some coding that I did here, so in that class here, and then I can open this up and then directly navigating to that source code here. You also see, okay, the task description I still see here in my editor then here to want to use that here. Maybe you've also seen now that this strange stuff here. What is this about? So because we didn't saw this here, but I'm sure you've already figured out is that I also have some kind of a special marker here for my method declarations, that it's quite better to see where a method or where a method ends. So I have used this kind of format here. And this you can in general use. So when you're going to the preferences here, preferences is in Eclipse or what you can, let's say, configure in your IDE. Then you have the syntax ABAP keyword coloring page here, and there we already see what you can configure. And what I did now, I created a new formatting option here for me, and in that case, I just marked 3 of some obsolete statements that I definitely want to use within my coding, and I have used this formatting for that one here. This is exactly what you're seeing in that class as well. So definitely here some ABAP statements that I don't want to use, and this is, by the way, also something where the ABAP cleaner takes care for it. So that when I'm pressing Control-4, then I'm seeing that some colleague who is currently in Denmark at the Copenhagen conference is using the same class. That's really nice. No worry about that. So you can imagine that then automatically this statement is transformed to the modern ABAP language with the assign statement here, or with the assign operator. Really nice. Okay, coming back to that one, what else do we have? For sure, here in that class, you see there's a little bit more objects and declarations in there. So what you definitely need is some kind of an overview. Okay, what kind of methods, attributes, and things like that are available in that class. So on the one hand side, you can use the first line of the editor, the so-called red grump, where you see then all the objects which are defined. So constructor is there, attributes, private attributes, also an interface implement, all these kind of things. But sometimes it's also better to use shortcut Control O. This provides you exactly the same information, but this you see it already here, because this I heard a lot of times from developers that it's not so easy to get information about methods or general members which are inherited from superclasses, and that's available here. So when you again press Control O, then you will also see the objects which are defined in superclasses. But that's also very good, and it's also only a temporary stuff. So when you're clicking Escape, then this pop-up also goes away. It's also quite useful because you can also filter here, maybe not so interesting for that small class, but you can imagine when you're using classes like the ALV grid, where you have, I don't know, hundreds of methods, then it's quite convenient here to get some kind of a filter capability here that you only see these methods that you want to use. All right. So that's also something that you maybe can use for code reviews, for example, that you say, okay, I want to review this, but not now, at the end of the week or at the end of the sprint or whatever. But sometimes you also want to provide this information to one of your developers. Maybe you want to say, oh, Søren, maybe you have some time, maybe you can also have a look, maybe this, I don't know, I'm not sure if this BAPI is really the correct one. Then in such situations, what I'm doing, I'm calling him or I write him an email and tell him, okay, there is a class in that system, and that source code line, there is this call function, please have a look on it. But with Eclipse, that's a little bit more convenient, because you just mark the source code that you want to review in that case, and then I click it here. And then I have this shortcut here, share link for selection, means selection that I did in the editor, and then I can create a link here. And there are two possibilities. One is a HTTP links. That's more when you maybe send this to someone who don't have access to Eclipse because it's not a developer, but it just wants to have a quick look on whatever source code, things like that. Then you can open this into a browser, or you can, in my case, I want to send it to my colleague who is also a developer, that I use this link here, and I can directly generate an email out of this. And then I can send this to the colleague, and then you will see what's happening. So you get this kind of email here. For sure, this is handwritten, but with this link here. And then when I make this maybe a little bit more, so I will close this class before I click here. And then you click on it, the security stuff, and then you will see that the editor opens up exactly at this source code position that I had marked here in my link. So also something which is very useful when working in teams here. So what I did here, I'm selecting now some data from the typical business partner table here. Before I want to do that, sometimes I also want to have a look onto the data which is available here in my test system. So for that, I'm using here another shortcut where I just can. At the beginning, I want to open a development object, so I used a different dialog. Now I really want to see the content, not the structure of the database tables, because that's irrelevant for me. I want to see the content of it. Therefore, I press Alt F8, and then I see the content of that table. So similar things that you might familiar with from the SE16, but it's only a preview because it's not to maintain data or things like that. So it's only to get this kind of things. But maybe you want to, I don't know, pick some data here. So you can also copy these things here, or you can also copy this, for example, as a ABAP value statement, which is quite convenient when you want to use this as test data in your unit tests, for example. Then you can also use these kind of functionality here within this editor here. And there's for sure also the possibility to open not only the data preview here, so you can also start the SQL console from here. And then you also are free here to directly enter here arbitrary select statements with filter, grouping criteria, all these kind of things that you want to use within your developments. And then later on, you can also copy this from the SQL consoles towards your productive coding. So it's more like also like a playground that you can use here. And that's also quite convenient here. All right, coming back to that class, now I also want to introduce a new friend, which is not so, rather new in Eclipse. I also call this here via this one here. That's the so-called Relation Explorer. It's also a very powerful tool. So this gives you the full information about all the dependencies that the development objects have. So in both directions. So on the one hand side, you want to see, okay, what kind of relations I do have in that class. So I'm using here a lot of data elements. I have access to the database table. I'm using this function module. So this is a very good overview. And you can also use the other way around to say, okay, so the where used information when you want to know, okay, where is this objects used? And then you also see, okay, within this report here, for example, I'm using this class already. So it's also very nice information. So more or less, this is what you may know from where used or from the search capabilities in the subGUI world. That's also available here as an view. And in that case, I really picked this here as an, let's say, more or less permanent view. So this is now, it's not going away when I click in the editor, but I can also use this kind of things when I only want to use this not so often. Then I can also hide this more or less. All right. At the beginning, I've shown you how you can open and development objects. We also have search capabilities in there. So this is Control H dialog. So because the first dialog that I've shown at the beginning is really a quick one. So you can directly search for an object, open it in the editor, but this gives you more convenience functions here when you really want to open objects here. So for example, again, I want to search for, let's say, all the objects. Oh, let's pick it from my friend Ingo. Maybe I only want to have these kind of patterns. And what else do we have? So a lot of things are available here. Maybe a date or a software component. Let's display all these kind of things. You can also display, okay, I want to search all the objects. I'm not sure how many of these objects Ingo have created. Okay, 8 objects found. And the good thing is that now this view is also more or less like permanent. That means whenever you click on that here, then you still have these results. So this is different to the dialect to where you just open an object, because this is then this goes away, but this stays here. But you can also, for example, when you really analyze that, you can also enlarge this view here, and then you also see a lot of more informations behind there. You can also do some kind of a grouping here when you, for example, say I want to group this for packages here, or for, I think what is also possible about the change date. Maybe this is convenient, or when this was created, all these kind of things. So a lot of filtering, grouping capabilities is very useful when you want to get an overview about the whole repository of that system here, let's say. All right. Going back. going away, I don't know. You've seen what I'm using in my, where do I have it? Here I'm still using direct access to database tables. This is for sure in the new ABAP cloud world, not the coolest way, let's say, because you should really directly use the available CDS views instead of the database tables. So when I open, for example, here this database table, now I'm going to the editor. This is maybe also for display use cases not so convenient. So you also want to maybe use the element info, then you get more or less a similar view that you may expect here. So more like a table kind of view. Or you can also switch here to also get some kind of overview. This first, okay, about what includes are in there, or also about, for example, customer extensions when I have enhancement fields and things like that. So this is more convenient to use this in that way here. You can also collapse this here, and then I think you have a better overview about that. Having said that, I want to quickly go into the properties view of that, because there you also see some very nice information. Because what I already mentioned is you should not use these database tables anymore in your coding. So you have to use the CDS views instead. And this is what you get here on that side now here. Here you see, okay, what are the successors here? So whenever you want to select data from the business partner table in the modern ABAP cloud world, you should use this CDS view instead, which is basically more or less a view on top of that tables, but it includes much more information like associations to, here you see it all. It's really a data model, let's say. So it's not just a bunch of database tables where you have to find out on your own, okay, what are the dependencies between these data stuff here. So it's really like a data model that you can use here. That is really one of the tips to really learn about using the CDS views instead of using the pure database tables. At the end, I want to more or less conclude with one of my favorite tools for sure. Coming back to that class here. I hope that Felix in Copenhagen have not did some incompatible changes here. So what I want to do now is to show you at the end what you should use in order of doing some kind of static code analysis. So, maybe code inspector, extended syntax check, or all these kind of things. In Eclipse, you only use the ABAP test cockpit, which is available here. So in that case, I really want to look if this class that I have developed here, if this class can really be also used in ABAP Cloud development. So this ABAP Cloud readiness check variant I want to use here, and I execute this. And then this takes a few seconds. And then you also see you get all the information what you have to change when you really want to use this class here with the ABAP Cloud programming model. For sure, then things like just calling this BAPI is not possible, and all these obsolete statements will get syntax errors, or also this select here that are directly doing on the database table, which is not available for the ABAP Cloud programming model. This will also result in an ATC errors. But you also get here some kind of quick fix possibilities that makes it more simpler here. Just looking if this is working here. I will not do it because maybe then my colleague gets nervous in Denmark, but you can see here what is possible here. That's not all these kind of things needs to be changed manually. So you can also click on that, and especially these simple cases where you just have to use the new ABAP syntax, this can all be automated. So no panic here when you want to migrate towards the ABAP Cloud model. So not all these things needs to be adjusted manually. So you can also use the ABAP test cockpit here to do these kind of things in a kind of automated way. All right. Having said that, this was it already for me. I hope I was right in time. And then giving back to Tobias.